Let's face it, the LS430 is a car that didn't age that well. It might look a little bit bulbous, bubbly, some may say, blob-eye-ish, but at the end of the day, it pioneered things that even cars today aren't luxurious enough to have. Today we're going to go over my purchase that I purchased back in August, I think, of 2024, and how I've been getting on dailying such a beast of a car. Welcome to Love Racing.
Hello? Yeah,
Is
this is Love Racing, mate. This is Love Racing.
So the thing with this car is, it's not just a daily for me, because it feels more than that. It feels like it's an occasion to drive, and that is really the thing that I like about Lexus in general. Back in the early noughties, they were so over the top with all of the features that they had that it almost became a computer rather than a car. Take for example the fact that this car has features that the then following on Range Rover had. Things like heated and cooled seats. Well, things that the Range Rover didn't even have, like oscillating vents. I'm sat here being wafted by cold air. It is just a silly amount of electronics that go on in a car like this that you sort of overlook it when you buy it, and you sort of forget that sometimes things might not work. So, as you may have seen on my first video on this car, where I revealed me and my friend Riley's car for the £1,500 businessman car challenge, I bought this car for £1,550, which even still to this day, even after experiencing this car for thousands of miles, racking up lots of miles and doing lots of daily duties with it, and finding out all the little details wrong with it and putting it through an MOT, I still believe that this car was worth that money and then some. It is an incredible amount of car for 1,500 quid. It is a ridiculous amount of car. 4.3 litre V8, comfy beyond belief on air suspension. This particular one is an all options ticked ultra luxury model, or as they call it in the States, the UL. Over here, I think it is referred to as the premium pack. And then in Japan, as the Celsior, it's referred to as the presidential spec. I believe they're all sort of the same thing. They're all options ticked, or as many options as you could possibly afford when buying this car new. Back then, it would have set you back around £90,000. I don't know what that is in today's money, but I think that that's how much it was. Which is ridiculous to say that I managed to pick it up for a fraction of that. I was going to work it out. I was going to work it out in percentage, but then I gave up because I'm not good at maths. I'll turn the car off because that is the one feature that I don't like about this, or feature, the one thing that I don't really like about this car. It's quite thirsty. I do want to quickly mention that I did have an accident in this car. Yeah, I was on my way to Caffeine and Machine. I was on my way to do a Waymo quiz. We was in a 40 zone, you know, just trundling along. The motorway had been blocked off for a crash up ahead, I assume. The guy 2 cars in front of me was probably not paying attention, I don't really know. But he, for some reason, for whatever reason, didn't notice the cars were stopped dead, slammed on. The car in front of me, which was a BMW, slammed on as well. And then obviously me in this car doing about 30 mile an hour. You know, it's quite a heavy car and the brakes aren't the best in the world, and it just didn't stop. I mean, it did stop and it locked all fours up, but it just could not stop in time. It just tapped the rear end of that BMW. And I felt really bad because the car is actually, I really like this car, and I didn't want to hurt it. And I did, and I feel really bad. Now, let's get on to some of the bad points of this car. There are a lot of things wrong with it. For 1,500 quid, if you're expecting to go out and buy a Lexus LS430, I probably wouldn't expect to buy one that cheap and not expect issues with it. This was, at the time of the sale, the cheapest LS430 for sale in the UK with MOT, as far as I could gather. But let's get on to some of the bad bits. So, starting off with El Sunroofio. It doesn't work, it doesn't tilt or go back or anything of the sort. All I can do is open and close it, which, it being open, is quite good for filming because I get lots of natural light in, but I would like for the sunroof itself to work. I also have an issue with the telescopic steering column. It goes in and out, but it does not go up and down. It's supposed to flip down and come back out to the exact same place that you left it. However, my one, without the up and down function working, the motor just sort of, when you take the key out, retracts in and then forgets that it's a telescopic steering column motor and just forgets where it was before, and I guess it just like, it gets confused at why it can't go upwards. And then when you get back in and turn the key, it just stays where it is because it doesn't know what it's doing. The aircon. Now, I didn't really take much into consideration at how much this is going to affect me because it hasn't been summer yet in my ownership of this car. But I've owned a few cars in my life. A few of them did have aircon from factory, and none of them have had working aircon, including this car. I assume the air condenser's fucked. I don't think I can just regas it and it work because the condenser doesn't really look like it's in that good of a nick. Which then gets me onto another incredible feature of this car that doesn't work as intended. The fridge in the back. It works nice, but only if you've been driving and the sort of air of you driving gets in, like a car without aircon would work. The fridge runs off of the air conditioning, if you didn't gather what I'm trying to say. It's not supposed to be a fridge, and it's not supposed to really leave drinks ice cold or like keep ice frozen. It's just sort of a cooler box. Now, something that I have been meaning to try and fix, that down there's the boot release. It doesn't open the boot as it's supposed to do. I've heard that it's got soft close boot. It has soft close doors, but I think maybe because of the boot release, the soft close boot doesn't work. Maybe it doesn't have it? I don't know. You know, there's a button on the back, there's a button on the key, and there's a lever down there that you pull to release the boot. None of them work, even with the valet mode, unactivated and unlocked. None of it works. I don't know. I really don't know. Because the fuel filler flap, which works on the same fuse, works perfectly. So I've not a clue. People have said it could be something to do with that valet key lock system, because you push in the lock there, and then the valet can't open the boot, so maybe it just thinks that it's always locked. Now, the exhaust hanger is something that I've been dealing with on and off. When I was filming that first video with Riley, on the way there it was fine until just as I was getting to his unit and my exhaust hanger fix decided it didn't want to be an exhaust hanger anymore and just let the exhaust drop onto the subframe. It's happened before. Me and my dad tried to fix it on a ramp. It was only a temporary fix and it didn't last. So it's back to vibrating like fuck. I will go for a drive in a bit and I'll see if you guys can tell. Just a little one. Bonnet struts are lazy. You know, it happens. The boot struts were lazy. I've replaced them. They're all nice now. When I can open the boot, obviously I have to insert the blade and turn the lock. But I should replace the bonnet ones as well because they're lazy. Sometimes they're lazy and they decide to droop the bonnet. Sometimes they'll hold it up fine. It's like it has an off day some days. Now the gauge cluster is something that really pisses me off as well. It's supposed to have 3 lights. I don't know if I'll insert a picture of how it's supposed to look, but if I do, here's a picture of how it's supposed to look. It's supposed to have a screen under the rev counter for your projected MPG, your range, faults with the car. If there's faults, they'll come up on that little screen there. They'll tell you pretty much everything you want to know about the car. On my car, doesn't work. There should be a middle screen underneath the gear, what gear you've selected. That doesn't work either. But the third screen underneath the speedo works perfectly, which I'm quite happy about because that's the mileage and that's the thing that matters for an MOT. So at least they can see what mileage it's had. A lot of the lights in the cluster are just off and sometimes they'll intermittently turn on and off. Apparently it's a common thing. Don't know. The air ride is a bit intermittent, but we'll gloss over that because I've got BCs for it. it's getting some BC coilovers, so it doesn't really matter, does it? Now the big one, the whole reason I hate driving this car on long journeys. The radio doesn't do anything. It turns on, you can select channels, I can also put a tape or a CD in and it'll read it and say that it's playing, but nothing that I do will make it play audio. It pisses me off. I've never heard this supposed to be beautiful premium sound system by Mark Levinson. I've never heard of it. So I really wanted to praise Mark Levinson on his work with this stereo system, but I'll never know. I will never, ever, ever know. Unless I try fix it, which I have tried. And we're halfway through sort of getting to the root of the problem. I was thinking amp to begin with, but that's alright. All the fuses, fine. The nav unit, which also is broken, and the wiring runs through the amplifier, is fine. So there might be a relay issue, there might be a module issue, it might be that amp system itself. That's still yet to be decided. Now, onto some good bits with this car. I really, really, really want to praise this car for all that it's worth. For everything that's good with it. Stupid stuff that you don't need, like double glazed windows, like soft closed doors, like memory front and rear seats, heated and aircon front and rear seats, vibration rear seats, reclining rear seats, and electric headrests both front and back. Obviously you can control the seats, this front seat from here. I can control the radio and the air conditioning and the air purifier from the back, as I said before, wafting, oscillating vents, electric rear sunblind and manual side sunblinds for both rear windows and the little corner windows. It's also got electronic If I was a CEO of a really massive business in Japan, I probably would want that instead of that. The only thing it's missing, I think, is one of them buttons on the new Rolls Royces that shuts the doors for you. But you'd buy one of these back in the day because you've got a chauffeur, so he would do it for you. This drawer I forgot to mention on the bad pass. This drawer's supposed to go down there. It won't stay closed, so it's just been taken out. But yeah, I think it's time that we go for a drive, and no matter what, £1,500 for an LS430 premium pack Lexus will never be beaten, and you can quote me on that. Oh, it's lovely. So this car is actually lush to drive. It is absolutely mint. Look, here's a speed bump. I mean, yeah, I felt it, but in the Eurosa that'd be 48 hours in A&E for back pain, you know, paracetamols going down the gob all night over that one bump. Whereas this, there's another one, it's fine. So really, I do want to talk about that exhaust. It is horrendous. The standard exhaust with a cat delete and a Fox rotten exhaust hanger is awful. It vibrates all over the gaff. It is horrendous. Like, it's just a shit exhaust. So you listen to that. Wait. Oh, it's a horrendous noise. That has to be fixed because it's pissing me off. But as a daily, it has been probably one of the most enjoyable things to drive ever. It is just so lush. I mean, I've never owned a car for this long and I've left it standard for this long. So that could probably tell you all that you need to know. If you know me, you know that I don't really like standard cars all that much because they're just a bit boring. This hasn't yet. As I mentioned earlier, I've got BC coilovers for it upstairs in my house. I've got some wheels. Yeah, I've got some wheels on the way from Japan. They are on the boat right now coming to Japan. They should be around, I think they said May time. So I'm looking forward to that. And here is the big plan for this car before I probably inevitably decide I want to get rid of it. We're going to Poland, baby. Boat Race 2025 is happening. Oh, I cannot wait. Me and my girlfriend are going to be driving all that way in this. I want to get the BCs on it. I want to get it set up nice and low-ish. Put the wheels that I've got coming from Japan on it. Lovely. There's a bird. Get out of the way, bird! As a final thing to say in this video, you do get a lot of trade-offs with this car. You get awful MPG when you put your foot down, like horrendous to the point where you notice the needle going down. You get all sorts of bangs and rattles from the horrible exhaust hangers and this, that and the other. But there's one redeeming factor, and there's one factor which you cannot take away from me, and that is that godforsaken noise.